Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so chapter 115 of Eden Zero is out. Actually, it's been out since Monday, but because of the fact that I read the chapters on the Crunchyroll manga app and those don't update until Wednesday, I didn't know. But yeah, that's the reason why this video is actually like 2 or so days late. Not like anyone's going to actually watch it anyway, but it doesn't matter because I enjoy doing these videos and I'm going to keep up with my my pledge to continue reviewing Fairy Tail Wonder Year Quest and this series each time the new chapter comes out, because like I said, I enjoy reading them, I enjoy talking about them, so I'm going to keep doing it regardless of the views. But anyway, guys, like I said, chapter 115 is out, and this was an amazing chapter, especially art-wise. I actually want to talk about that real quick. The art for this chapter was amazing, especially my favorite shot of the entire chapter was that one scene where we see Shiki basically lifting the tree from the roots of the ground up. That shot was so amazing. Like, you got to see Shiki just like I said, lifting the tree up on his back. You got the flying fish just coming at you. Like, that shot was so incredible. And again, each chapter, especially now that I'm really reviewing it and actually looking at it in a critical stance, each chapter of Eden Zero is really showing me and like how well an artist Hiromashima is, and really make me wish that he was the artist drawing Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest. And again, don't get me wrong, I believe the guy's name is Ueda. I think that's a new artist on Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest. He does a great job, or she, I actually don't know if it's a guy or girl, I should look into that. But they do a great job themselves. You know, they basically take Hiromashima's art style and put their own twist onto it. You know, it's their own style combined with his. And it's good. It really is. I'm not going to fault them on that. The only thing is that there's a certain flair, there's a certain flash, there's a certain, like, I don't know exact words to describe it, but there's something about Hiromashima's art style, especially the art style he's developed as he was going along writing Fairy Tail, that he's taken now into Eden Zero. There's something about that art style that just works so much better than what we're getting over in Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, and I feel like, personally, I really do, that if Hiromashima was the one drawing Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, even though a lot of people were kind of dissatisfied with the way Fairy Tail original went, I feel like a lot more people would have made a jump over from the original series to Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest if Hiro was still drawing it, just for the art style alone. But getting into the actual chapter, if you remember in my last review, I talked about the fact that I thought Mora, after he pinned everyone to the tree, I figured that Happy and Pino would be the only two left because the two of them are robots. And since Mora, Orc, and Brittany are all after basically destroying all robots, they're basically here on this planet to enact their plan to basically kill all robots on the planet. I figured they would go after Pino and Happy in this chapter, and I was kind of right. Apparently Happy was still in his gun form. I didn't realize that Rebecca was actually holding him when she got pinned to the tree. But he's with her. Pino's the only one who didn't get pinned, and Mora immediately, as soon as the chapter opens up, goes straight to destroy her. But luckily enough, Happy, even though Rebecca wasn't holding him, was actually able to hold Mora off, because apparently he can kind of float in the air and just shoot at will without Rebecca holding him. That's kind of interesting to know now. But because of the fact that Rebecca wasn't holding him, he was not able to properly aim, so he couldn't really do any damage to Mora. The best he could do was to basically just keep him at bay until Pino could get far enough away from him for Shiki to basically strike a counterattack. Which, by the way, like I said earlier in the video, Shiki, in order to do this, he basically lifts the tree that he's pinned to, out of the ground and hits Mora with it, which everyone is confused about because of the fact that apparently Shiki shouldn't be able to use his Ether Gear, and this is actually kind of true to the story. You can't use Ether Gear if your arms are immobile. So, like, if you can't move your arm, you can't use your gear. Now, I don't know how that works with Rebecca's Ether Gear, since it's tattooed to her foot, but still, especially when it comes to Shiki, if he can't move his right arm, then he can't use his Ether Gear. And if you look at that panel where he's pinned to the tree, his arm should not be able to move, so he should have been able to do what he did in this chapter. Now, that being said, you can tell from the scene that, you know, maybe his wrist would have been movable, like maybe he could do that. Maybe that was enough for him to actually activate his Ether Gear, and I guess it actually was, since he did it in this chapter. But realistically, you would think that because of the fact that his arm was pinned down, even if he could remove his wrist, because he couldn't move his whole entire arm, he shouldn't have been able to use his gravity Ether Gear. But anyway, he does. He hits Mora with a tree, and then the two of them start fighting. Now, during the beginning of the fight, it seemed like Shiki definitely had the upper hand. I mean, Mora was putting up a good fight, but one, Shiki hadn't gone into overdrive, which we're not exactly sure if he can do that at will now, but we know that's in his back pocket, so he wasn't going at it 100% just yet. And two, it really did seem like Shiki was mostly getting the upper hand in that fight. And then we got the moment when Shiki went to throw that big punch at Mora, and the punch goes right through him because Mora turned his body into glue. So basically, we have Logia users in this series now. And if you don't know what that means, that's basically a reference to One Piece, where in that series you got people called Logia users who ate a devil fruit, which basically is the item or the fruit, the mystical fruit that gives them their powers in that series. But it's people who ate the kind of devil fruit that actually gives them elemental abilities. And with those abilities, they have the ability also to turn their body into the element that they ate. So basically, like a character named Ace who could control fire, he could turn his body into fire. You got a character like Aokiji who could turn his body into snow. Mora seems to have similar abilities. And now, as far as I'm aware, we've never actually seen someone with these type of abilities before who can actually turn their body into the element that they control. I mean, we have Laguna who can basically turn other people into water as we've seen him do, but I don't think we were actually seeing him turn himself into water. So I don't know if he actually has that kind of ability. And maybe he actually could develop that kind of ability later on in the series. This could be an interesting development for Ether Gear users who actually use elemental Ether Gear. And if you know anything about Logia users in One Piece, they are historically in that series shown to be some of the most powerful characters. So if we end up actually running into more people later on in the series who can turn their body into the actual element or Ether Gear controls, we could potentially end up seeing some very strong opponents for our heroes to fight off against. Now, once Mora actually reveals that he has his ability, he quickly starts to get the upper hand on Shiki, and I don't really want to say quickly gets the upper hand. He basically just, because of the fact Shiki was kind of surprised by this, he kicks Shiki through the confusion and basically gets the upper hand that way. But while Shiki's on the ground, that's when Orc and Brittany show up, and first off, we end up finding out that Orc in this chapter is half robot, which calls into question why he would actually want to destroy other machines, but I guess he's just kind of following orders at this point. That's probably all they're doing, really. I don't think they actually have any malice towards machines. They're just following their boss's orders. But we end up finding out, like I said, that Orc's half robot. Him and Brittany show up. I still don't know what their abilities are just yet. I'm still pulling for Brittany to have some kind of eye ability similar to how Evergreen has in Fairy Tail. If not the same ability, but something similar. And we still see her fiddling with her glasses in this chapter, so obviously her eyes or her glasses have to have something to do with her ability. And with Orc, even though we now know he's half machine, we do see him coming in holding a giant robot, kind of like the one that Shiki and them destroyed in the last chapter. So we know at the very least he's very strong. I'm hoping that he has some kind of like machine version of the Elfman's ability, where he can turn possibly into like different types of robots or something like that. That would be cool. But as of right now, we don't know exactly what their abilities are. Now, that being said, even with these two wild cards into play, now that we know what Mora's ability is, that he can turn his body into glue, and it'll be a lot harder for Shiki and the gang to fight against someone like this, I personally think that their best option in this current situation is to find a way to free Homura, Rebecca, and Wise, use Pino's EMP to shut off all the Ether Gear from everyone. Pick Pino and Happy up, because obviously they'd be out for the count due to the, the Ether Gears and, the EMP being shut down. And then just hightail it out of there. Just get the fuck out of there before they can get attacked even more by these three characters. Because they really, maybe Orc and Brittany, maybe they can beat them, because we don't really know what their abilities are yet. Maybe their abilities aren't as broken as Mora's is. But as of right now, with Mora's broken ability to turn his body into glue, if he can do what he did in this chapter, where he basically just dodged Shiki's punch by letting Shiki punch through him, then none of them are really a good matchup for him. If I'm being honest, right now their best strategy when it comes to fighting off against Mora would be to go back to Eden Zero and recruit either Klein or Jin, because of the fact that the two of them have wind-based abilities. Their abilities, especially Klein's, would work very well as a counter to Mora's, since Mora basically shoots glue at his opponents. Klein's ability basically would keep her from being hit by the glue. And as we saw in the previous arc, well, not the previous arc, but 2 arcs ago, when Klein is fighting someone, she can actually trap them inside her wind. So her wind bending ability is pretty much the best bet they have against Mora right now. And speaking of Klein, we actually cut back over to Eden Zero, and we see that her, Laguna, and Jin are actually getting inside Eden Zero's like little fighter jets. I forget what they're called, but they're getting inside them, and basically they go out and they are fighting off against the drones that were attacking the ship in the last chapter. And we see the 3 of them actually doing a really good job of that. Well, I should actually say 4 of them, because Moscow is also out there. We see him fighting alongside Jen, because the 2 of them have some kind of like brotherly pack. They're kind of close because they were kind of partners back when Jin was just a mercenary. But this part of the chapter really isn't all that important. I mean, it's cool action shots, but this is literally just Hero kind of getting us used to the idea that these three characters are going to be on the team. Because like I said in my last review, pretty much despite the fact that only Klein wants to actually stay on the Eden Zero and the other two want to leave as soon as they can, the fact that neither one of them are being that active and, solving the problem that's keeping them on the Eden Zero just says to me that they're going to be sticking around, they're going to be joining the team eventually, they just haven't come around to it just yet. Now, while the three of them are out there fighting, we have Witch and Sister basically watching from inside the ship, cheering them on, which, speaking of which, we have this nice, the cover illustration for this chapter is Witch walking down some stairs in a Chinese dress, has her hair in kind of like bonbon things, and we have some bats flying back behind her. It was really well done. Hiro Mashima, again, like I said, killing it with his art. The only thing is, I feel like this illustration would have been better suited for the week of Halloween, like the chapter that's coming out the week, or if not the same week, but the week before Halloween, just because of the fact that, it kind of, with the bats and Witch, it kind of has a Halloween motif to it. But then again, I don't know how big of a holiday Halloween actually is over in Japan. So it could just be because of the fact that maybe it's not that big. I know some anime touch on Halloween, some anime ignore it completely. But because of the fact that I don't know how big it is over there, it could just be not that big. And because of that, Hero didn't think to say, oh, we have this character who's based off of Witch, who's basically, witches are kind of, a big deal in Halloween, or a big theme in Halloween. Maybe I should save her her illustrated cover page for that week. Maybe he didn't think of it. But anyway, again, it was a nice image. Getting back to the story, the two of them are there, like I said, cheering on the other three as they're fighting off against the bots. And immediately Sister calls on Herman to getting one of the gunner seats so she can help out. But we end up cutting to Herman and we see that she's completely ignoring everything that's going on and doing some research on her own. And what she ends up finding out is that the virus, virus that Ziggy put on this planet to turn the robots against humans. To turn the robots against the humans. She realizes that if Ziggy isn't stopped soon, then he could eventually develop this virus to end up taking over the three shining stars. And this is such a great reveal at the end of the chapter, because even though we probably won't be touching on it in this arc, I don't think she means that, if they don't stop this virus that's on the planet soon, eventually it's going to affect them. What I think she means is basically later on in the series, Ziggy's eventually going to develop the virus to the point where they can be affected by it. And the reason why I think this is such a great plot point to bring up now, even though we probably won't be touching on it for maybe 10 more arcs, is because of the fact that now that we know about this, the next arc we deal with that has anything to do with Ziggy, basically coming in the wake of his rampage and basically him showing his dominance of robots over humans, each arc we go into was something like that. We'll have the potential and the fear of, oh, is this the time when Sister, Herman, and Witch are end up getting taken over and end up turning on everyone? Is this when they're going to happen? Is this what's going to happen? Each new arc that we get into with Ziggy, we're going to have that fear in the back of our heads. And then eventually when it does end up happening, it's going to be such a great, big moment in the series for everyone, especially Shiki, because of the fact that he's really come to see these three as family. So having to fight against them is going to hurt him even more, but also prepare him for when he eventually has to fight against Ziggy. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the chapter. That's it for the review. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace. See you later.